ahead and get started. For those who are our speakers today, make sure you keep your phone muted until it's your turn to speak, and that'll help us to keep everything orderly so that we can get through all the different things that we need to get through. So, okay, all right, let's see. Great, thank you. All right, let's see here. Okay, ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልኝ በጣም እናመሰግናለን በየሳምንቱ የምናቀርበው የኮቪድ-19 ፕሮግራማችን ነው ወይም በኮቪድ-19 የተያዘ ኢንፎርሜሽን እንደገና ደግሞ ሪሶርስ ምናምን ጥቅሞች እንዴት ማግኘት እንዳለብን የምንነጋገርበት ፕሮግራማችን በየሳምንቱ የምናቀርበው ነው ስሜ ሰላም ምስጋናው ይባላል ይሄን ፕሮግራም ማቀርበው ማዘጋጀውና ከዛ ደግሞ እዚሁ ፕሮግራሙ ላይ ሰንዴይ ላይ ሆስቶኜ የምሰራው እኔ ነኝ እና በየሳምንቱ ስለምትመጡ በጣም እናመሰግናለን ዛሬ ደግሞ አዲስ ለመጣችሁ በተለይ ይሄ አሁን ዛሬ የምናቀርበው የስፔሻል ፕሮግራም የሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል ሱፐርኢንቴንደንት በጣም ብዙ እኛ ኮሚኒቲ ልጆች ያሏቸው ሰዎች ስላሉ ትምህርት ቤት የሚሄዱ በጣም ሌላ ሰዎችን በደንብ ኢንቫይት ለማድረግ ሞክሬያለሁ እዚህ መታችሁን ባታቁ ሌላ ጊዜ ዛሬ የመጣችሁ አዲስ ሰዎች ካላችሁ በጣም እናመሰግናለን እንኳን በሰላም መጣችሁ ላለኝ ሌላም ጊዜ እንድትመለሱ በጣም ኢንቫይት እናረጋችኋለን እሺ እንግዲህ ብዙ ጊዜ ትንሽ የሆነ ፕሮግራም ወይም አፕዴት መሰጣው ነገር ይኖራል ግን ዛሬ በደንብ ከሱፐርኢንቴንደንቷ ጋር በደንብ ጊዜ እንዲኖረን ብዙ ስለሱ አላረግም ወደ በኋላ ሌላ ስለ አንኤምፕሎይመንት የሚሆን ስለ ምግብ ምናምን ነገሮች ወደ በኋላ እንነጋገራለን ግን መጀመሪያ ግን በደንብ ጊዜ እንዲኖረን ከሷ ጋር ወደዛ ፕሮግራም ነው ቀጥታ መንገባው እና እነሱን የመጡትን ዛሬ ገስታችንን እነሱን ከማስተዋወቂ በፊት መናገር የምፈልገው ምንድነው ይሄ ፕሮግራም ከማርች ድረስ ጀምሮ እያቀረብን ያለው ነው ፕሮግራም ነው እንግዲህ በአማርኛ ለሚናገሩ እዚያ ኪንግ ካውንቲ ዋሽንግተን ለሚኖሩ ሰዎች ሁሉ ነው የምናቀርበው ፕሮግራም እና ዛሬ ወደ ትምህርት ቤት የሚነካ ነገር ነው እያቀረብን ያለነው ሌላ ጊዜ ስለ ትምህርት ቤት ተነጋግረናል ግን ዛሬ በተለይ በሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል ውስጥ ማለት ሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል እዚህ ሲያትል ውስጥ የምንኖርበት ሀገር የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤት ማለት ነውና እዛ ውስጥ እንግዲህ በጣም ብዙ ትምህርት ቤቶች አሉ ወደ 100 የሚያልፍ ትምህርት ቤቶች አሉ ከኪንደርጋርተን እስከ 12ኛ ክፍል እና ወደ 3000 የሚያክሉ ቲቸሮች አሉ እዛ የሚሰሩ ከዛም ሌላ ደግሞ ወደ 50000 የሚያክል ተማሪዎች አሉ እዚህ ሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል ማለት ነው እነሱን ሁሉ ሪስፖንሲብል ሆና የምትሰራዋ ሱፐርኢንቴንደንት ደኒስ ጁኖ ትባላለች እና እሷን ዛሬ የመጣችው እዚህ ፕሮግራም ላይ እንግዲህ እሷ ከ2018 ጀምሮ ወደ 2 አመት ማለት ነው እዚህ ሲያትል ውስጥ ሰርታለች ሱፐርኢንቴንደንት ሆና መጀመሪያ ግን እሱን ስራ ከመጀመሪያዋ በፊት ክላስሩም ቲቸር ሆናለች ማለት ክላስ ውስጥ ታስተምር ነበር ከዛም በኋላ ደግሞ ስቴት ኦፍ ሞንታና የሚባል ስቴት ሄዳ እዛ ነው እንግዲህ የመጣችው ከዛ ነው የመጣችው ወደ ሲያትል ከመምጣቷ በፊት እዛ ነበር የምትኖረው እና እዛም ራሱ ሱፐርኢንቴንደንት ኦፍ ፐብሊክ ኢንስትራክሽን ለሁሉም ለስቴቱ አንድ ላይ የምትሰራው እሷ ነበረች እንደገና ደግሞ ኔቲቭ አሜሪካን ናት እንግዲህ ባክግራውንዷ ማለት ነው ከማንዳን ሂዳስታ ትራይብስ ነው የምትመጣው እና እንግዲህ እሷ በደንብ ሌላ መጨመርበት ነገር ካለ ትነግረናለች ግን ጀስት ትንሽ ስለሷ ለመናገር ፈልጌ ነው ማለት ነውና እንደገና ደግሞ አብራት የመጣችው ከሷ ጋር የምትሰራ አኒታ የምትባል ሴትዮ አለች እሷ ደግሞ ማናጀር ናት በተለይ እዛው ሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል ትሰራለች እሷ ትልቁ ነገር የምትሰራው ምንድነው ስለ እናትና አባቶች ወይም ቤተሰቦች እንዴት ነው ከልጆቻቸው ጋር እየሰሩ ከቲቸሮቹ ጋር አብረው ሆነው ልጆቻቸው በደንብ እንዲያድጉ በደንብ እንዲማሩ ምንድነው ማድረግ ያለባቸው የሚለው ላይ ነገር ነው ፎከሷ ከዛ ስለሷ ማለት የፈለጉት ምንድነው አተርኒ ናት ወይም ደግሞ ሎየር ሆና ነው የምትሰራው የተማረችው እሱን ነው እንደገና ደግሞ የተወለደችውና ያደገችው ናይሮቢ ኬንያ ውስጥ ነው ከዛ እዛ አድጋ እንደገና ምን የተለያየ በጣም ትልቅ ስራዎች ሰርታለች። ዩናይትድ ኔሽን በሶማሌ ሰርታለች። በጣም የተለያየ ኢሚግራንትን የሚረዳ ሰርታለች። እንደገናም ደግሞ አሁን እንዳልኳችሁ በቤተሰብና በትምህርት የሚለውን ነገር ነው ፎከሷ። ሌላ ደግሞ አንድ ሰው እንደገና የሚያስተረጉምልንም አለ። እሱ ስሙ ኃይሌ ውብነህ ይባላል። እናመሰግናለን በጣም ኃይሌ። አናግሬዋለሁ ከዚህ ፕሮግራም በፊት እና በጣም ብዙ ጊዜ ወደ 4 አመት ከዛ የሚበልጥ ስፔሻል ኤዱኬሽን እና ይሄ ባይሊንጓል ወይም ESL የሚባል አይነት ትምህርት ለሀበሻዎች አማርኛም ትግርኛም ለሚናገሩ ቤተሰቦችና ተማሪዎች በጣም ይረዳ ነበር። አሁንም እዛው ሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል ሆኖ ስራው ትንሽ ቢቀየርም አሁንም ቢሆን ግን ማስተርጎም ቤተሰብ መርዳት አይነት ነገር ነው የሚሰራውና እሱም ከማስተርጎምም በላይ የሚያቀውን በሚያቀው በሰራውም እንዲጨምርበት ነግሬዋለሁ ወደ በኋላ ማለት ነው። ትልቁ ነገር ማለት ፈልገው ወደ ፕሬዘንቴሽኑ ወደ ሱፐርኢንተንደንት ከመሄዴ በፊት ምንድነው መጀመሪያ ሱፐርኢንተንደንቷና አኒታ የሚሰጡት ፕሬዘንቴሽን አለ ወደ 5 ደቂቃ ምናምን ያክል እነሱን ቀጥታ በእንግሊዘኛ ተሰሟቸውና ከዛ ኃይሌ ሰመራይዝ አድርገው አንድ ላይ በቃ ከተት አድርገው ይነግረናል ምን እንዳሉና በየወርዱ አይደለም የሚያስተረጉምልን ግን ትልቁን ነገር ያሉትን ምንድን ነው ብሎ ይነግረናል። ከዛ በኋላ ደግሞ ጥያቄና መልስ ይሆናል እና ጥያቄና መልስ ላይ እኔም አንዳንድ ጥያቄዎች አሉኝ ግን እናንተን በጣም መንገር የምፈልገው ነገር የምትፈልጉትን በተለይ እናት አባት አያቶች ለሆኑ ሰዎች ልጆች ካሏችሁ ቤተሰባችሁ ውስጥ ቤታችሁ ውስጥ ትምህርት ቤት የሚሄዱ ልጆች ከኪንደርጋርተን እስከ 12ኛ ክፍል ማለት ነው ያሏችሁ ሰዎች በተለይ እናንተን በጣም ኢንከሬጅ ማድረግ ፈልጋለሁኝ። አንደኛ ምንድነው ጥያቄ መጠየቅ ትችላላችሁ። የምትለውን ነገር ከሰማችሁ በኋላ በወረቀት ጻፉ ጥያቄ ካላችሁ ከዛ ጊዜው ሲደርስ ጥያቄ ትጠይቃላችሁ። ሌላ ደግሞ ከጥያቄ በላይም ራሱ እስካሁን ድረስ ይሄን በሪሞት ለርኒንግ በኮቪድ ምክንያት የተቀያየሩ ነገሮች አሉ። እቺን ሱፐርኢንተንደንትን ምን እንድታቅ ትፈልጋላችሁ? ስለ ኮሚኒቲያችን ምንድነው ማወቅ ያለባት? እንዴት ነው እኛ መርዳት አለባት የሚለውን ነገር መናገርም ጊዜ ያለው ማለት ነውና ስለዚህ እሱን እንድትናገሩ በጣም ኢንከሬጅ አደርጋችኋለሁ። እንግዲህ አሁን ቀጥታ ወደ ፕሬዘንቴሽን እንሄዳለን። ካሁን በኋላ እኔ በእንግሊዘኛ ነው የምናገረው እነሱን እንዲገባቸው ግን ኃይሌ እንዳልኳችሁ እኔ ጥያቄ ካለኝ ጥያቄውን ወደ እንግሊዘኛ ወደ አማርኛ ይተረጉመዋል። እነሱ ደግሞ እንግሊዘኛ እንደተናገሩ ደግሞ በቃ ያስተረጉምልናል ማለት ነው። ግን እንዲቀል ነገሩ በጣም ኮምፕሊኬትድ እንዳይሆን እኔ ካሁን በኋላ ወደ እንግሊዘኛ ገባለሁኝ። ኃይሌ ደግሞ ወደ አማርኛ ይተረጉምልናል ማለት ነው ከፕሬዘንቴሽኑ ጀምሮ። እሺ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። Okay, thank you so much Superintendent Denise Juno. Anita, thank you so much for being here. Haile, we really appreciate you all for being here. I have just given people your bios, a very, very quick bio. And so, I just want to say thank you for taking your time. I know it's a Sunday. You all have families. You all have homes. So I know that it's hard to make time. It's a very crazy time for you all. School's about to start on Friday. So we know it's a lot going on. So we appreciate you taking the time to be here. I'm going to, let you guys do your presentation. As we talked about 3 to 5 minutes each for Superintendent Juno and Anita. And Haile is here. He's going to interpret it back for us. So we will just go directly to the presentation right now. And I'm just looking for a phone number for the superintendent so I can unmute you. I'm just looking right here. Here we go. I found you. So we'll go there now.
Okay.
Hello.
Am I on?
Yes, you're
on. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me into this space. I really appreciate it. How often do you want me to stop for interpretation?
Oh, sure. So I think if you want to actually just do your whole spiel, and the way that we talked about with Haile is that he's going to try to summarize sort of what you, and he has your talking points already. So feel free to just go ahead and speak. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I am just really happy to be here, and thanks for having me. I am the superintendent for Seattle Public Schools. I am starting my 3rd year, and so just really proud of the work that our district is doing. And as we all know, of course, that our year is going to look a little bit different as far as not being in person. We know that we are best when we are in person in buildings, but we will be starting remotely on Friday, September 4th. All of you, of course, are as Anita will always tell me, parents are the first and lifelong teachers, and the connections that we make this year with our families are going to have to be really strong and stronger than we've ever built before. And so having me in spaces like this, I just really appreciate it. Any way that we can maintain connection throughout this difficult time will be super helpful. But we are starting school on Friday, September 4th. That first full week will be what we call a strong start, and it really is a focus on building connections, social, emotional well-being. We want to make sure that all of our scholars have what they need to be successful, and so there will be technology check-ins. We will have family hub centers where families can make sure that they have the connections they need and are set up with everything they need to make sure that their child is successful. Different start times this year. There will be an 8:30 a.m. start time for elementary and K-8 schools and a 9 a.m. start time for high schools. And again, we are committed to ensure that all of our students have the technology necessary, and so we want every student in our system to have a device. And school buildings, you should be hearing from your principal, hopefully, if you haven't already, will be setting a schedule for when their child can come pick up a device if they don't have one yet. We also can provide families hotspots and maybe some free internet access for a few months. We are we still continue with our meal services across the city. And then again, we will have these resource centers for tech support for students and families that will have interpreters. And so that will help, I think, all of our families really get set up correctly because, we're going to be in this for a while. And again, we just want to make sure that our family connections are super strong. So I can pass it over to Anita for a few remarks. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Denise Juneau. Haile, why don't you go ahead and interpret for us now then?
Okay. እንደምን ዋላችሁ ሰላም እንደገለጻችሁ ኃይለ ውብነህ እባላለሁ። አሁን ሱፐርኢንተንደንቷ የገለጸችው ነገር ዋናው ሳመራይዝ አድርጌ ለማቅረብ ሞክራለሁ። እሺ እሷ ባለችው ልጀምር። በጣም ለዚህ ለጠራችኝ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። በጣም ደስተኛ ነኝ። ይህ አመት ለሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል 3ኛ አመት እየጀመርኩ ነው እያለች ነው። በአካል ትምህርት በጣም የበለጠ መሆኑን እናውቃለን፣ ግን በዚህ አመት በርቀት ትምህርት ሪሞት ለርኒንግ እንጀምራለን። የሚጀምረው ለቅድመ መደበኛ ትምህርትና ኪንደርጋርተን መስከረም ሴፕቴምበር 8 ይጀምራሉ። ከአንደኛ ክፍልና እስከ 12ኛ ክፍል ያሉ ተማሪዎች ደግሞ ሴፕቴምበር 4 ወይም ደግሞ መስከረም 4 ትምህርታቸው ይጀምራሉ። እነዚህ ሁሉም በርቀት ነው የሚሆነው። የመጀመሪያው ሳምንት ከመስከረም 4 እስከ መስከረም 11 ያለውን ስትሮንግ ስታርት እንለዋለን። እዚህ ጋር አስተማሪዎች ለተማሪዎቻቸውን በቀን አካዳሚክ የሆነ ለ2 ሰዓት ብቻ ነው የሚያገኙአቸው። ሌላው ግን ኮኔክሽን ከፋሚሊ ጋር ልጆቹ ዲቫይሳቸው በደንብ እየሰራ መሆኑን ኢንተርኔት አላቸው ወይ ይሄን ቼክ የሚያደርጉበት ሳምንት ነው በቀን 2 ሰዓት ብቻ ነው አካዳሚክ የሚማሩ ትምህርት ነክ የሆነው ሌላው ግን ከወላጆች ጋር በመገናኘት እንዴት እየሄደ ነው ኢንተርኔታቸው ጥሩ እየሄደ ነው ወይ ኮምፒውተራቸው እንዴት እየሄደ ነው የሚል ነገር የሚሰሩበት አንድ ሳምንት ነው እሱም ስትሮንግ ስታርት ብለውታል ሌላ ትምህርት ኤሌመንተሪ ስኩል እና ከK to 8 የሚባሉ ትምህርት ቤቶች 8 ተኩል ነው የሚጀምሩት 8 ተኩል ከጧቱ 8:30 AM ማለት ነው መካከለኛ ደረጃ ትምህርት ቤትና ሁለተኛ ደረጃ ትምህርት ቤት ደግሞ 9 ሰዓት 9 AM ወይም ደግሞ 9 ሰዓት ከጧቱ ይጀምራሉ ሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች እያንዳንዱ ተማሪ አንድ ዲቫይስ እንዲኖረው ይጠበቃል እነዚህ አንደኛና ሁለተኛ ያሉ አይፓድ ሊሰጣቸው ነው ከዛ በኋላ ያለው ደግሞ ላፕቶፕ ይሰጣቸዋል ይሄም እስከ መስከረም 1 ካልተደወለላቸው ቤተሰቦች ለርዕሰ መምህር ወይም ደግሞ ለትምህርት ደውለው ዲቫይስ አልተቀበልኩም ወይም ደግሞ ዲቫይስ የለኝም ብለው መጠየቅ ይችላሉ ሌላ ሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች እያንዳንዱ ተማሪ የኢንተርኔት አገልግሎት እንዲኖረው ይፈልጋል እሱም ለተወሰኑ ወሮች በነፃ ኢንተርኔት የሚያገኙበት መንገድ ያመቻቻል ሌላ ደግሞ ሃትስፓት የሚባላል ሃትስፓት ማለት ትንሽ ዲቫይስ ናት ኢንተርኔት አገልግሎት የሚያገኙበት ነው እሱም ይሰጣል ሌላ ምግብ ለተማሪዎች ባለፈው አመት በ26 ትምህርት ቤቶች እና በአውቶቡሶች የትምህርት ምግብ እያሰራጩ ነበር በዚህ አመት ግን እነዚህ ትምህርት ቤቶች ወደ 40 ለማስፋት አቅደዋል ወላጆች ከ11 AM ከ11 ከጧቱ እስከ 1 PM እስከ 1 ከሰዓቱ እነዚህ 40 ትምህርት ቤቶች ሄደው ምግብ መውሰድ ይችላሉ ለቀዳሜና እሁድም አርብ መውሰድ ይችላሉ ስለዚህ 40 ትምህርት ቤቶች እንዲሆኑ እየተሰራ ነው ባስም የሆነ ፌርማታ አላቸው ወደ ፌርማታው ይሄዱ ሰው ሄዶ ያው ከባሱ ምሳ መውሰድ ይችላል ሌላ ሪሶርስ ሴንተር አለ ሪሶርስ ሴንተር ይሄ የጥቅማ ጥቅም ማዕከል የምንለው አሁን በዚህ ጊዜ ተማሪዎች ኢንተርኔት ይሄ ላፕቶፕ ወይም ደግሞ ኮምፒውተር ያለው ወይም ሃትስፓት ሊሆን ይችላል ሶፍትዌሮች አሉ የሶፍትዌር ችግር ካጋጠመ ጥያቄ የሚጠይቁበት ከመስከረም 14 ጀምሮ 8 ማዕከሎች ይዘጋጃሉ ለጊዜው አሁን ግን 3 ተዘጋጅተዋል በቀጠሮ ስልክ ደውለው ቀጠሮ በማስያዝ ድጋፍ ወይም ደግሞ እርዳታ ሊያገኙ ይችላሉ ይሄም አስተርጓሚዎች አሉን በቃ አጠር ባለመልክ ሱፐርኢንተንደንቷ ያስተላልፋቸው መልእክት ይሄን ይመስላል አመሰግናለሁ
እሺ እናመሰግናለን highlight thank you highlight all right so now we'll go to Anita and let me make sure that I unmute you Anita okay
thank you
yes
can you hear me
yes
all right good afternoon everybody I ordinarily really like to engage face-to-face, but since we can't do that, I hope you can feel in my voice that I'm happy to be here with you. My name is Anita Koyer Mwamba, and as Salam said, I'm the manager for family partnerships. And really what that means is my work is to support principals in how they create a welcoming environment at school, so that you as a parent always feel welcome and feel free to enter the school and have conversations about your child's education and your child's life in general, and maybe even your life, the things you want your teacher to know, the things you want the school to know, to help them understand how to best show respect for you and your role as your child's first teacher, the teacher who teaches them everything except the academics, from your faith to your cultural practices, teaching them to be proud in who they are and in how they show up. The teachers need you to learn, to teach them how to honor that part of your child's life. And so I hope that this is not the first time we meet, and that it's not the last time actually, even though it's our very first time meeting in this way. I have 2 children, one who just started at the University of Washington remotely. She just finished her first week of university level classes, and a 7th grader. So in many ways, the questions you have are the questions I'm also responding to and trying to create the best learning environment for my son, and trying to also transmit to him the most important cultural values we as a family hold. This morning, we were part of a group that every year we commemorate Maafa. Maafa is a Kiswahili word that means the great tragedy or the many deaths. And it's a remembrance of those we lost during the time of enslavement. And for many who may be lost and people did not remember their names, we try to call on their names to say thank you for surviving long enough so we can be here. Because that was something that affected all of us as people of African descent, whether we remain on the continent or whether we came to the New World and other parts of the diaspora. We give gratitude to our Native American brothers and sisters who laid the foundation on this land so that we can be here trying to make the best lives for our families. So I just bring you greetings, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I do know that your questions will give me an opportunity to respond to the things that matter most to you. And if you have any other questions, outside of that, questions about how I have coped and how I have made decisions as a continental African mother who did not grow up here and married to an African American man who grew up here and experienced a lot of the challenges our school systems provide and still made it through with a very strong identity as a diasporan African. I'm happy to answer any of those. So I'm very open to both professional questions and personal questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anita. Okay. Hi, Lay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. እንደምን ዋላችሁ? ፌስቢልስ ፊታችሁ ባየው ፊቴ ብታኝ ደስ ባለኝ ነበር፣ ግን ምንም ችግር የለም በድምጽ ብናረገውም እያለች ነው። ስሜ አኒታ እባላለሁ። የቤተሰቦች ማናጀር ነኝ። የኔ ሮል የኔ ድርሻም ርዕሰ መምህራኖቹ ማገዝ፣ ትምህርት ቤቶቹ ዌልካም ተቀባይ ተማሪዎችና ቤተሰቦች ጥሩ ተቀባይ እንዲሆኑ ማገዝ ነው የኔ ስራ ያለች ነው። ይሄም ከናንተ ጋር ከወላጆች ጋር መነጋገር፣ ትምህርት ቤቶች እንዴት ተቀባይ እንዲሆኑ ርዕሰ መምህሮችን ለማገዝ ከናንተ ጋር መነጋገር ያስፈልጋል። እናንተ የመጀመሪያ መምህር እንደመሆናችሁ መጠን የመጀመሪያና ሁሉም ጊዜ ከናንተ ጋር ያው አስተማሪ ተማሪዎችን የሚያስተምረው አካዳሚክ ብቻ ነው። እናንተ ግን ልጆቻችሁ እምነታችሁ ባህላችሁ እቤት ከመጀመሪያ ጀምራችሁ የመጀመሪያ አስተማሪ ስለሆናችሁ አስተማሪዎች የናንተ ልጆችን ለማገዝ ከናንተ ብዙ ነገር ይፈልጋሉ። ልጆቻችን እንዴት መርዳት እንደምትችሉ ከናንተ ይፈልጋሉ። እኔ 2 ልጆች አሉኝ። አንዱ አሁን ዩኒቨርሲቲ ኦፍ ዋሽንግተን የሚጀምር ነው። ሌላ ደግሞ 7ኛ ክፍል 7 ዓመት። ስለዚህ እኔም እንደወላጅ እንዳስተማሪም ስለሆነ ከናንተ ጋር መነጋገር ለኔም ሊያገለግለኝ ይችላል እያለች ነው ስለዚህ ለተማሪዎቻችን ጥሩ ህይወት እንዲኖራቸው የበለጠ ትምህርት እንድንሰጣቸው ከናንተ የሚመጣ ጥያቄ ለኛ ሊያገለግል ይችላል ስለዚህ ሞያው ጥያቄ ወይም ደግሞ ግላው ጥያቄ ካለ ማንኛውም ጥያቄ ጠይቁኝ በተቻለ መጠን የናንተን ጥያቄ ለመመለስ እንሞክራለን ያው አጠራርጌ ለማቅረብ ሞክሬያለሁ በቃ ይሄን ይመስላል አመሰግናለሁ
thank you Haile those were really great interpretations I really appreciate that okay so I think that was great I'm going to move us to question and answers and before I do that I want to say that the superintendent is here until 2:00 so 30 more minutes so I'll if there are specific questions that we want to ask of the superintendent then make sure you ask those now and I'll just say that in Amharic real quick superintendent እስከ 2 ሰዓት ብቻ ነው አብራን ያለችው ማለት 30 ደቂቃ ይቀራል ማለት ነው ስለዚህ ለሷ በተለይ ጥያቄ ቀጥታ ካላችሁ አሁን ጠይቋት ቶሎ ማለት ነው ከዛ በኋላም ደግሞ እስከ 3 ሰዓት ግን አንተ አብራን ትሆናለች ስለዚህ እሱ ማለት ፈልጋለሁ አመሰግናለሁ አሁን ወደ ጥያቄና መልስ እንሄዳለን ከዛ ሃይሌ የዛ ጊዜ እናንተ የምትጠይቁትን ኢንተርፕሬት ያደርግላችኋል መልሱንም ደግሞ መልሶ ወደ አማርኛ ይተረጉምልናል ወደ ጥያቄና መልስ እንሄዳለን እሺ ቆይ አንድ ጊዜ እዚህ ጋር all right እሺ እንግዲህ ጥያቄ ካላችሁ ኮከብ 6 አርጋችሁ ነው የምትጠይቁት for anyone who has questions you just do *6 and then it will let me know that you have a question and I'll go ahead and unmute you okay all right to get started I will ask a question so let's see there were different questions that have been coming in throughout the week because people have you know we made sure that people knew that this meeting was happening so there were questions that arrived to us via text or different things and one of them I want to highlight is what is you know specifically around seniors in high school who are graduating a lot of our young people the Ethiopian population here in Seattle like many minority or racialized folks relies heavily on in-school sort of after-school support for applying for college or, you know, financial aid as they're kind of thinking about transitioning out of high school to going to college. Well, given that this is going to be a remote learning, at least we're starting that way, what will the district be doing to make sure that students are supported in their transition? So that's a question I have for, or at least was posed to us from a community member, and so I wanted to ask that of Superintendent Juno, and I just make sure, are you unmuted right now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so that is, I mean, our high school students are, I mean, all of our students, right? Like, they like to be in person, and the high school experience is something that, you know, really weighs heavily because I know that our high school students are going to miss out on a lot of those in-person types of events. Our school counselors are still going to be engaged with helping particularly our seniors do the work that's necessary, and so those types of staff will still be available for supports.
Okay. Haile, go ahead.
Okay. ጥያቄው ሰላም የጠየቀችው ምንድነው የሚለው ሲኒየር ተማሪዎቻችን ወይም ሃይ ስኩል ያሉ ተማሪዎች ተመራቂዎች ተማሪዎች አሁን በርቀት ትምህርት እየተማሩ ያሉ በርቀት ከአካል በርቀቱ ምን እንደሆነ ለውጡ የምናየው ነውና ተማሪዎቹ ለኮሌጅ ወይም ለዩኒቨርሲቲ ዝግጁ እንዲሆኑ ሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች የሚያደርገው ያቀደው ትል ምንድነው? አፍተር ስኩል ሊሆን ይችላል፣ ቢፎር ስኩል ወይም የፋይናንስ ነገር ይሄ የሽግግር ሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች እንዴት ሊያግዝ ነው ያቀደው ብላ ነው የጠየቀችው። ሱፐርኢንተንደንት ደግሞ ምንድነው ምትል ያለችው የሁለተኛ ደረጃ ተማሪዎች ጠቅላላ ተማሪዎቻችንም የበአካል ትምህርት በጣም አስፈላጊ እንደሆነ እናውቀዋለን። አሁን ግን በርቀት እየተሰጠ ነው። ስለዚህ ሃይ ስኩል የሁለተኛ ደረጃ ተማሪዎች የትምህርት አማካሪዎች ስኩል ካውንስለሮች አሉ። እነዚህ ስኩል ካውንስለሮች ወይም ደግሞ የትምህርት ቤት አማካሪዎች እነዚህ ተመራቂዎች ተማሪዎቻችን እንዴት እንደሚታገዙ እንዴት ምን እንደሆነ ከተማሪዎቹ ጋር ሆነው እየሰሩ ነው የትምህርት ቤት አማካሪዎች ነው።
Can I add in another thing?
Yes.
Okay, so we also, I mean, I know that there will be, you know, we'll be providing supports, hopefully, as we usually do, even although it will be remote, but we also have a very strong relationship with the Seattle colleges. And I just want to remind everyone that the city of Seattle provides tuition-free college at all Seattle colleges. It's called Seattle Promise. So that is something that people should watch for. We will push out information about Seattle Promise so that there can be access to those first 2 free years where students can gain either a certificate or get their general education coursework out of the way before moving on to 4-year.
Okay, can I do Salan?
Yes.
Okay. በተጨማሪም እኛ ሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች ከየሲያትል ኮሌጆች ትልቅ የሆነ ጥሩ የሆነ ዝምድና አለን። ስለዚህ ሲያትል ሲቲ የሲያትል ከተማ ሲያትል ፕሮሚስ የሚል አለ። ተማሪዎች የሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች ሁለተኛ ደረጃ ትምህርት የተመረቁ ተማሪዎች ሰርቲፊኬትም ሊሆን ይችላል ወይም ደግሞ አጠቃላይ ትምህርት በነፃ ካለክስሊት ኮሌጅ እንዲማሩ የሚል አለ እያለች ነው። ሲያትል ፕሮሚስ ሁለተኛ በሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች የሁለተኛ ደረጃ ያጠናቀቁ ተማሪዎች በሲያትል ፕሮሚስ ኮሌጅ ሳይከፍሉ ወይም ሰርቲፊኬት ወይም የሆነ አጠቃላይ ትምህርት የሚማሩበት አለ።
እሺ Okay, thank you so much, Haile, and thank you to Superintendent Juneau as well. Okay, so there's a couple of people who have questions, so we'll go there now. እሺ ጥያቄ መጠየቅ ይችላል አሁን ስልክ ቁጥር 05 86 ስልክ ቁጥር 05 86 ጥያቄ አለው?
ይሰማል?
አሁን ይሰማል።
እሺ አመሰግናለሁ። ተገኔ ይባላለሁ። እኔ ለሱፐርኢንቴንደንቷ ልጠይቅ የምፈልገው ጥያቄ ምንድነው? ትምህርት ቤትን በተመለከተ በቅርብ ጊዜ እኔ ሙቭ አድርጌያለሁ፣ አድሬስ ቀይሬያለሁና ልጄ አሁን ሴፕቴምበር 5ኛ ክፍል ነው የምትገባውና ትምህርት ቤት እንዴት አድርገን ነው መቀየር የምንችለው? ወይስ በፊት በነበረችበት ትምህርት ቤት ቆይታ ሪሞት ለርኒንግ ስለሆነ ትምህርቷን በዛው መከታተል ትችላለች ወይስ ወደ አዲሱ ትምህርት ቤት ሄዳ መምህር ማግኘት አለባት? ይሄ በጣም ትንሽ ስለተቸገርኩ ነው። ምክንያቱም ሲያትል ፐብሊክ ኦፊስን ደውዬ ላገኛቸው አልቻልኩኝም፣ አድሚሽን ኦፊስ። ይሄ ነገር ለመጠየቅ ፈልጌ ነው። አመሰግናለሁ።
እሺ እናመሰግናለን። go ahead Haile.
ሰላም ግን አሁን አንዳንዴ ማቀው ኮነ ራሴል መልስላቸው ወይስ ዝም ብዬ ለሷ ልጣት?
ዝም ብለህ ስጣትና እሷ ከመለሰች በኋላ የምትጨምረው ነገር ካለ መጨመር ትችላለህ።
በጣም ጥሩ። Okay, this question is for Superintendent. Recently I moved from my previous address. So how can I, how my child can continue her learning? Is she continuing from the previous school or from the new address? I tried to call the enrollment, but I didn't get any response. So how can I do this?
You know,
okay.
Yeah. And I think maybe አልሰማችኝም መሰል ወይም mute ሆና ይሆናል. Janice, I'm not sure if you're muted, but we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're speaking right now.
Okay.
Let me find her. I think her call might have. Nope, she's right here. Okay, hold on.
Okay. Can I ልናገር አይደል?
ቆይ እስቲ አንድ ጊዜ እሷን ለማለት ፈልጌ ነበረ. ስልኳ ግን it's not. So Denise, for some reason, I'm having a hard time unmuting you. Oh, I think it works for me now.
No? Yes.
Yes, you are. You are. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. The question is, he moved from the previous address. He moved. And he had a student in Seattle Public Schools.
Yes. Okay. I think did you hear the question already?
Yes. And
okay.
So what I was saying when I was on mute was that, I mean, the appropriate place to get that changed is our enrollment and admissions office. But if you are having challenges, I mean, I would ask just somebody on this call just to gather that information of how I can have our admissions person reach out to whomever asked that question, and we'll make sure that we get engaged and get your student enrolled.
Okay. And can I add something to him, what I know from how he enrolled something?
Yes.
Can I give him some information, additional information? Okay. ተቋረጠ መሰለኝ ሰላም
አለ መጀመሪያ ኢንተርፕሬተር አድርግለትና ከዛ ጨምርለት
ኦኬ ተገን ምን እያለች ነው አሁን አንተ አድራሻ ቀይረሃል አይደል ስለዚህ አድራሻ ስትቀይር ኔበርሁድ የሚባሉ ትምህርት ቤቶች አሉ አንተ በመተኖርበት አድራሻ ነው ልጅህ መመዝገብ ያለባት የርቀትም ሆነ በአካልም አንተ የምትኖርበት አካባቢ ነው ማስመዝገብ ያለብህ እሱም ኢንሮልመንት ነው የሚያደርጉት ወደ ኢንሮልመንት ደውላለህ ይሄ ችግር ካጋጠመህ ግን ይሄ ነገር እነዚህ ጥያቄዎች ሰብሰብ አድርጌ የሚያግዝ ሰው አረንጅ አደርጋለሁ አመቻቻለሁ ያለች ነው
thank you Haile I'll make sure to
ልንገረው ዲቴይሉ ሰላም በደንብ አድርጌ
I think it would be better if we get his phone number and then I will share it with the district so that they can reach out just so that we can get to other questions. But it sounds like you had one more thing to add, Superintendent. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that is like let's get his number or email and make sure that they get connected.
Okay. Yep, I took down the number, so I'll make sure to share that. Let's move on to the next question. Okay. ጥያቄ መጠየቅ ይችላሉ ስልክ ቁጥር 9299 መጠየቅ ይችላሉ ጥያቄ ስልክ ቁጥር
ይችላል
እሺ እየሰማኝ ጠይቁ
እሺ
የኔ ጥያቄ የልጆች ምግብ ወይ ምሳ ተዘጋጅቶ ይጠብቃል ሄዳችሁ ፒክ ማድረግ የሚባለው ላይ ነው አሁን ለምሳሌ ባለፈው በቆየኑ ቆይታ ከዲኤስኤች ጋር እንትን ብለን ፈንዳሜንታል ኢቲቪቲ በሚለው ያው ትንሽ ካርድ ሰጥቶ በሱ ነው እንትን ያደረገን የነበረው ነው እንደዛ ቢያደርግ አሁን በየእንትኑ የተዘጋጀውን ምግብ ሄደን እንዴት ነው በእሱን ሰዓት ተጠብቀን ሄደን ምግቡን ወስደን እሱ እንደው ዝም ብሎ የራሳችሁን ጊዜና የራሳችሁን ምግብ ማባከን ይመስላል። እኔ ግን ለፋሚሊ በካርድ የምንቀበልበትና ኢቲቪቲ ይሄ ፈንዳሜንታል ኢቲቪቲ የሚባለው አለ። እሱን አጣቶ ለፋሚሊ እንትን ብል ይጠቅመናል እንጂ ይሄ ዝም ብሎ አንዱ ይበላል አንዱ ማይበላ ምግብ የተዘጋጀ የሚለውን እኛም ሄደን አንወስድም። እሱን ሆነ ብለን ሰዓት ተጠብቀን ደግሞ ስራ እንሰራለን እኛ ሁሌ እሱን እንትን እያለን አንቆይም። ስኩል ይመገባሉ። ስኩል ይሄ በየቦታው በየስፍራ አዘጋጅተናል የሚለው ትንሽ ስታርድ ነው። ዝም ብሎ ኖርማል ምግቦችን የሚሰጡ ከሆነ አንዳንድ ቦታ አሁን ስኩል ስለተዘጋ ብሎ ባለፈው ሄደን ስንወስድ አንዳንዱ ምግብ ኤክስፓርድ የሆነ ነው። የቆርቆሮ ምግብ የሆነ ኤክስፓርድ የሆነ ነው። ስለዚህ ለምን ለፋሚሊ የሚሆነውን በካርድ ተዘጋጅቶ ፈንዳሜንታል ኢቲቪቲ በሚለው ላይ አታስገቡልንም?
እሺ ጥሩ አይዲያ ነው። ኃይሌ ይነግራታል። እናመሰግናለን።
Okay. She is asking about the school food, the meal distribution. The meal distribution, the ready food, it's very hard to get. Sometimes we are working family, we don't have time to get that. And the school food distribution is not enough. And sometimes we got expired food. So instead of this, why don't give us a card like the PEBT instead of getting food from the schools?
Yeah, so our school meals, we're expanding our services to 40 sites. Right now we have 26 sites, so those will get expanded. So hopefully maybe there will be one closer that is more accessible. And we are also looking at expanding our bus route services. Our school food program is paid through the United States Department of Agriculture. And so we get reimbursed for certain types of food. And so what is allowed for us to do is like service that we have now and not through the cards like she's requesting. And so we also have rules and guidelines that we have to live by to receive our funding, and that we're advocating at the federal level for all different kinds of changes that will help make it easier for families. But right now, that's the service that we need to provide under our regulations.
Okay. እስካሁን የምግብ ማሰራጫ ትምህርት ቤቶች 26 ነው ያሉን። አሁን ግን ወደ 40 ለማስፋት እያሰብን ነው። ይሄ በባስ በአውቶቡስ የሚሰራጨው ምግብን ለማስፋት ሰዓቶቹን ለቤተሰቦች እንደሚመች ለማድረግ እየሰራን ነው። ለወላጆች የሚመች የተለያዩ ነገሮችን ለማመቻቸት አድቮኬት እየተጣበቅን ነው። ግን ለጊዜው አሁን ያለን አገልግሎት ግን ይሄ ነው።
Thank you, Haile. Appreciate it. Yeah. A follow-up question I have for the superintendent is, so the way I understand the PEBT is that it comes from DHS, Department of, sorry, I can't even think, but it's not coming from the school district. So what do you have any sense of, it sounded like the way they provided last time is that it was for the during springtime when students couldn't go into school. So since it's happening again now in the fall, do you have a sense of whether or not they are considering doing that again for the fall quarter as well?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. ለተርጉመው አይደል? እሺ ሰላም ያለችው ይሄ ፒኢቢቲ የሚባለው ከሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤቶች አይደለም ከዲኤስኤች ነው መሰለኝ እና ለሚቀጥለው መከር የመከር ወቅት ትምህርት የሚጀምሩት ለዛ ሲያ ፒኢቢቲ የምግብ ጊዜያው ካርድ ነው የሚለው እሱ ይኖራል ወይ ብላ ነው የጠየቀችው ሰላም ሱፐርኢንተንደንቷ ግን አላወቅኩም ነው ያለችው
All right, let's move on to the next one. Thank you. እሺ ጥያቄ መጠየቅ ይችላል አሁን ስልክ ቁጥር 5098
Hi, I'm going to speak in English so it can be a little bit easier. My question to Seattle Public School District staff is, do you guys have any current groups or advocate groups that are specifically dedicated to Ethiopian families to advocate for their needs and speak on behalf of them and support them? That's my first question. And then the other one is, who are your guys' stakeholders that you guys are working with in the Ethiopian community to help advise you on plans that you guys have for the students to help the families also? And then, yeah, I think those are my main questions right now because there's a lot of miscommunications going on with the families in the district. But if there was that middle person to help families, not just interpreting, but actually be there to advocate for them and to advise the families in the school district for this family needs, it would be very appreciative.
Okay, thank you for the question. So both Anita and Superintendent, feel free to respond, please.
So Denise, do you want to take it or would you like me to start? And I believe Kirk is actually also on the phone, so you might be able to.
We can
okay, you want me to go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the first things that's happening in just a couple of weeks, I believe, is a request for people to participate in an equity advisory to the superintendent. And there's a component of that work that will include people advising on family engagement and some on racial equity. And I believe there may be another component with community partners. So that will be one way. And when that goes out, I think it would be great to ensure that we have somebody from the Ethiopian community. But right now, there's not been any direct advisors to the district. And I think it's not for lack of interest. I think it's just a great opportunity now as this pandemic has exposed a lot of areas that we have opportunities for growth in. So I would love to connect with whoever asked the question and just see what would it look like for the Ethiopian community to forward some people who could be in that role. I know in my department, for sure, I really would love more people having some say in what happens. I think the other piece is because we're also hyper-focused on Black students, on Black males in particular, sometimes the nuances of our intra-African community don't show up. We just think about the group as a monolith of Black people, but sometimes there are unique needs within that group, and this is one way to bring it forward. Just by the request, then we know there's a need. It's often challenging to just go out and ask. So, for instance, and then I'll stop and then Haile can interpret. We know that we focus on 4 language groups when we talk about continental Africans. We talk about Tigrinya, Oromo, Somali, and Amharic speakers. But Africa is so much bigger, and there are many people with deep needs. But until the affinity group or the community group is known to us, it's really difficult to figure out who needs support and what kinds of supports. So I'm very open to any partnerships and any collaboration to serve the Ethiopian community better. I don't know if that's helpful as an answer.
That's great. And I have the number and name of the person who asked that question, so happy to make connection afterwards.
Yeah, and I would just add, there's been, I mean, there are series I do these types of things, and we are engaged in affinity community group meetings, and it really is usually sort of a presentation or Q&A, and I know that, Kirk Mead's also on this call, and we don't need to get into it on this one, but we are moving towards a better process, I think, where it would be actually less just input from the district to actually real discussion about what does the community need to know and what do they want to know, working with the community around those needs. And so we're moving in a sort of a different direction, so that it can be a more, I hope, collaborative type of meeting. And so we're, like I said, we're doing these affinity group meetings, but I think we're moving in a direction where it will seem more collaborative and not just a one-way communication mode.
Awesome. Go ahead, Happy.
Okay. ያው የመጀመሪያው ጥያቄ ምንድነው ለኢትዮጵያን ኮሚኒቲ የኢትዮጵያን ማህበረሰብ የሚጣበቅ አላችሁ ወይ ለኢትዮጵያን ኮሚኒቲ ለኢትዮጵያን ማህበረሰብ የሚያግዝ ከሲያትል የህዝብ ትምህርት ቤት አላችሁ ወይ ብላ ነው የጠየቀችው ይሄም ስትመልስ ፋሚሊ ኢንጌጅመንት የቤተሰብ ተሳትፎ የሚባል የሚደረግ ስብሰባዎች አሉ ወደዛ እንዲሳተፉ ለኢትዮጵያን ኮሚኒቲ እንጠይቃለን የሚሳተፉም አሉ ካልሆነ ግን በቀጥታ ለኢትዮጵያን ኮሚኒቲ የሚያግዝ ዳይሬክት የሆነ እንትን ግን የለንም ይሄ ማለት ግን ፍላጎት የለንም ሳይሆን ፍላጎት የለንም ማለት አይደለም ዲፓርትመንታችን ይሄ ነገር እንዲኖር የኢትዮጵያን ኮሚኒቲ እንድናግዝ እንፈልጋለን ነው እና አሁን የተጠየቀው ጥያቄ ስልኩም ያው ኢሜይሉን ከተገኘ ከሚመለከተው ሰው ለማገናኘት እንሞክራለን ሌላ ስለ ብላክ አፍሪካን የጥቁር አፍሪካን ወንዶች የሚል ስብሰባዎች ምናምን ሲደረጉ ግን ወደ ኢትዮጵያን ኮሚኒቲ ጥሪ ሲደረግ የማይገኙበት ነገር አለ ስለዚህ ኦሮምኛ ትግርኛ ሶማሊኛ አስተርጓሚዎችም አሉን ግን አፍሪካ በጣም ትልቅ ኮሚኒቲ ስለሆነ ምን አይነት እርዳታ ነው የሚፈልጉት እርዳታ የሚፈልገው ማን ነው ምንድነው የሚፈልጉት ማን ነው የሚፈልገው የሚሉ ጥያቄዎች አሉን አሁን ግን ያው ባንድ አቅጣጫ ሳይሆን በተለያየ አቅጣጫዎች ስብሰባዎች ያደረግን የሚፈልጉት ምንድነው ምን አይነት ሰፖርት ይፈልጋሉ እነማን ናቸው የሚል ለማወቅ ጀምረናል ጥሩም እየሄድን ነው ነው ያሉት
እሺ ቴንክ ዩ ሃይሌ ወደሚቀጥለው ጥያቄ እንሄዳለን እሺ ጥያቄው መጠየቅ ይችላሉ አሁን ስልክ ቁጥር 2078
Hi Salam, this is Sadia from SHA.
Oh, hi Sadia.
Hi. Thank you everybody for asking the questions. We have 3 residents from SHA in the meeting, and Lemlem and the Kerlish both have to go to work, so they asked me to ask those questions. If they are hearing still, they can add to the questions if I miss anything. The question is, we don't have the capacity in the homes to educate our kids, some of us, and we don't have a resource that speaks our language. And Lemlem said, I'm really worried. I don't think I taught my son to catch up in the last spring, and I think I'm just dealing with the same issue because I cannot help him because of capacity. And also, I don't have someone, a person that I can call and respond to me right away. So I think the question is two parts on it. One, internet. She said if internet goes down, the whole day will go out because who to find out? Can somebody be there to troubleshoot? Can somebody listen to me or speak to me in my language? The second one was, is there any capacity, is there any help academically, like someone we can reach out to and respond to us right away in our language? So those were the two questions from London.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I would just like that I think situation is just what weighs so heavily on me, and I know a lot of people in our district, because that is going to be the challenge, is in this remote setting, and when families have to go to work and there are multiple kids in the in the house and internet goes down, what does that connection look like? We in the spring had a tech hotline that had language speakers, and so we hope to get that going again. And so, if there are issues with technology and internet, we can we should be able to have a hotline. And we are asking our educators, our teachers, to maintain really tighter connections than we have in the past, particularly because there has to be a lot of reach out. And so I just want people to know, like, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that we are as flexible as possible, and to give grace as much as possible, because we know that we are all in this together. But definitely those issues are the ones that we are also struggling with and trying to find ways forward. We continue to work with community-based organizations as well, and so there may be a time in the future where there might be some places where students can come together over time. But, that's our challenge right now in this time period. And so I hear that and just know it weighs heavily, but it is also, when we're making decisions, those are the situations that we are always thinking about how do we prioritize students and families who are really facing these challenges, and how can we do better as a system to make sure they feel supported.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Okay. ስለዚህ ከጥያቄው ልጀምር። ልጆች ከጥያቄው ይጀምራል። በእንግሊዝኛ ነበር የተጠየቀውና ወይስ ወደ መልሱ ልሂድ?
ሁለቱንም አጠራርገህ ቀጥታ ወደ መልሱ ብትሄድም ራሱ ጥያቄው በዛው ይገባቸዋል የሚመስለው።
በቃ ወደ መልሱ ልሄዳል። አዎ እናውቃለን። እኔና በትምህርት ቤታችን ያሉ ሰዎች ይሄ ችግር የካፓሲቲ ወላጆች የካፓሲቲ ችግር መኖራቸው፣ ወላጆች ስራ ስለሚውሉ ልጆቻቸውን ለማገዝ ኢንተርኔት እንደሚበላሽ ይሄ ነገሮች እንዳለ እናውቃለን። ባለፈው ጸደይ ግን ቴክ ላይን የሚባል አዘጋጅተን ነበር። እሱም በቋንቋቸው የሚያግዝ ነው። ስለዚህ ይሄ ብዙ ለሁሉም ያልበቃ ከሆነ አሁንም እዛ ላይ ይቀጥላል። ስልክ አለ፣ በቀጥታ ወደዛ ይደወላል በቋንቋቸው ማለት ነው። እና በዚህ አመት አስተማሪዎች ለወላጆቻቸውና ለተማሪዎች በደንብ በቅርበት እንዲያገኙዋቸው እናደርጋለን። እኛም እየታገልን ነው። ይሄ ችግር ሰምተነዋል፣ ከእናንተም ሰምተነዋል። በተቻለ መጠን እንዴት ማመቻቸት እንደምንችል እንሰራበታለን፣ እየሰራንም ነው።
እሺ፣ thank you.
Salam, may I just say something to that question?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you can unmute me.
Oh, we can hear you. Sorry. Anita, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Perfect. So the first thing I'd really like to share with you is that please don't feel stressed out because you're not teaching your child academic material. Because teachers go to school for sometimes 6 to 8 years to become good teachers. And even after they go to school, they still struggle sometimes to deliver instruction. So the first thing is this pandemic is new for everybody, and everybody is learning. There's some very simple things you can do that will still help your child develop critical consciousness. What I mean by that is, will your child be able to interpret their environment by asking the right questions? To me, that is a big part of education. Education is not just getting an A because you memorized something. So that's the first thing. Take the pressure off yourself because you have to take care of your family first. If the rent is not paid, if the water bill is not paid, then those are other stresses. So that's number one. Number two, there are programs such as Khan Academy or the ABC Mouse thing, and every school may have some kind of program that if you're uncomfortable with actual instruction in mathematics, your child can play games on these different sites that would build their mathematical skills. But you can also do that with them in the home. And I think that it's really important to do that. If you have children that are attending South Shore Pre-K-8, Rising Star, or Thurgood Marshall, they have a program called the Academic Parent-Teacher Teams, and that's a really good place to learn, to have direct contact with the teacher, because the teacher will be teaching you skills and strategies that you can use at home with your child. They will also give you materials. If you're not in those schools, this is where you as a parent can kind of take back the power around your child's education. So instead of asking the teacher, how is my child doing? You might say, I don't feel fully equipped to teach my child this math unit. Can you walk through it with me, even if it's just for 5 minutes? Can you show me, can you demonstrate to me how you teach this lesson? And what are the key things I need to know? As a parent, you have the right to ask those questions. And if you have older children, sometimes they can help the younger ones, because I find that children teach each other really well. The other thing that you have a lot of grounding in is your culture. So if you're going to teach language, if you're speaking your home language to them, maybe you can start working on them writing in your home language. You can take anything, a picture book that has no words, or you could even have them make a book that is all literacy. So I want you to feel that you have the power over certain things, and where you feel like you're not sure because it's math or it's science or something like that, you should talk to your teacher and just say, here's what I need to talk to you about. I feel like my child is behind and I need your help. And if the teacher will not help you, then find an advocate. If your Tiasla and Sadia is there with you, that's a real blessing, because she's been really helpful to so many. But if you don't have somebody that you can reach out to immediately, you can reach out to the next level, which would be the principal, and say, you know, I've asked my teacher for this several times. Can you help me get this information? And sometimes the teacher will just bring all the parents together and say, let's have a Zoom call or a Teams call and go through some basic ideas. I know it's a lot I'm saying, but right now as the parent, you have every right to want the best for your child and to help the school understand how to give that to you. That is where your power is. If your relationship is strong with your teacher, you'll be able to get that information a little more comfortably. One last thing is not every teacher will have it, but you can advocate and ask your teacher to get the Linguistica app. It's the app where they can text you in, they can write it in English, but it translates into Amharic or Tigrinya or whatever language is needed. That way you don't need to wait for a third person to come and talk to you, and that comes through our ELL department. But, you know, you can ask your teacher, can you please get the Linguistica app and get your code so I can communicate with you directly. Sorry, Haile, I know it's a lot.
I will try to summarize. Okay. Can I continue? Or
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. አሁን ምንድነው ያለችው አስተማሪዎች ትምህርታቸውን ብቃት ባለው ወደ ተማሪዎቹ ለማስተላለፍ ከ6 እስከ 8 ዓመት ሊፈጃቸው ይችላል። ስለዚህ ትምህርት ማለት ዝም ብሎ መሸምደድ ወይም ደግሞ ኤቢ ማግኘት ሳይሆን ያው የቢሄቨር ለውጥ ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ትክክለኛውን ጥያቄ ከወላጆቹ ማግኘት አለባቸው። ለምሳሌ ብላል በተወሰኑ ትምህርት ቤቶች እና ሾርላይን ገልጻለች። አንድ ተማሪ ያ በትምህርት የሚሰጠውን ምክንያት ሊደክመው ወይም ላይ ረዳው ስለሚችል በጌም መልክ በጨዋታ መልክ እንዲገባቸው እነ ሳውት ሾር ያሉ ትምህርት ቤቶች ይሰጣሉ። ስለዚህ ይሄ በጣም ጥሩ ነው። ለአስተማሪዎች ምን አስተማርክ ብለህ ከመጠየቅ አሳየኝ ምንድነው የምታስተምራቸው ምን አይነት ነው የምትሰጣ ዝም ብሎ ከመጠየቅ አይቶ ማየት ነው ጥሩ ለልጆቻችን። ትላልቆች ቤተሰብ ልጆችም ካሉ ለትናንሾች ልጆች ሊያግዙ ይችላሉ። ሌላ ለምሳሌ ሪዲንግ ራይቲንግ ይማራሉ። እቤት ሌላ ቋንቋ የሚነገር ከሆነ አማርኛም ይሁን ትግርኛም ሶማልኛም ኦሮምኛም ይሁን በራሳቸው ቋንቋ መጽሐፉ እንዲያነቡ ልክ በእንግሊዝኛ እንደምናደርገው አንብቦ በራሳቸው ቋንቋ ከዚህ ጋር ምን ተረዳችሁ ገጸ ባህሪው ምንድነው መልእክቱ ይሄ ምንድነው ብላችሁ በቋንቋችሁም መጠየቅ ትችላላችሁ። ሌላ ልጄ ወደ ኋላ ቀርቷል ብላችሁ የምታስቡ ከሆነ በቀጥታ አስተማሪያችሁን መጠየቅ። ካስተማሪያችሁ መልስ ካላገኛችሁ የሚቀጥለው ወደ ርዕሰ መምህር መጠየቅ። ሌላ ሁሉም አስተማሪ ላይኖረው ይችላል፣ ግን ቋንቋ የሚተረጉሙ አፖች አሉ። አሁን ለምሳሌ ሊንጓስቲካ እኛ አማርኛ የምንጠቀምበት የላንጉዌጅ ትራንስሌት የሚል አፕ አለ። ያ ላንጉዌጅ ትራንስሌት ሞባይላችሁ ላይ ዳውንሎድ ታረጉና ልክ እንደ ቫይበር እንደምንጠቀመው አይነት ነው። ከዛ የምትፈልጉትን በእንግሊዝኛ ጽፋችሁ በአማርኛ ይተረጉምላችኋል። ትግርኛ የለም አማርኛ አለ። ግን ሴንተንስ ልክ አረፍተ ነገር ከሆነ ግን ፐርፌክት ላይሆን ስለሚችል ዝም ብላችሁ ቃላቶች ፍሬዞችም ያው እኔ እዛ ተሞክሮ ስላለኝ ነው የምገልጸው እሱም መጠየቅ ትችላላችሁ። ሌላ ደግሞ የኢኤልኤል እንግሊሽ ላንጉዌጅ ለርነር አስተማሪዎች ዲፓርትመንትም አለ። እነሱም በመደወል በመጠየቅ ብዙ ኢንፎርሜሽኖች ማግኘት ትችላላችሁ። ያው አሳጥሬ ለማግለጽ ሞክሬያለሁ።
That was great. That was really good, Hailey. Thank you. I want to say I know that Superintendent, I know that you are only slotted to be here until 2, so totally get it if you need to go. That's fine. I had one final question maybe before you left, which was around connecting with teachers and principals. I got several questions in the last couple of weeks as preparing for this meeting around this, which was, specifically, for example, I heard from a mom. Her name is Mebit. She has twin boys, and they are transitioning to high school right now. So they're about to enter high school, and she had very, very strong relationship with their, middle school teachers. They're really good students. Of course, they had a difficult time with remote learning. Who hasn't, right? Like, it's a difficult time, but it was also very difficult on her because she had those strong relationships that were in the building and the schools that she could walk into, and she really wasn't able to have that at all. Whether it didn't convert very well to virtual or remote is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Like, she didn't know what number to call. She's not as comfortable online in terms of engaging with teachers, and her kids would tell her, oh, yeah, I'm talking to my teacher, everything is fine, I'm learning what I need to learn. But she wanted to get the peace of mind herself. She wanted to connect directly with their teachers, with the principal. And at one point she told a story about how she would call the main school line, and her kids would tell her, well, there's nobody there, why are you even calling? So I want to make sure that if there's other moms, other parents, guardians in this call, what would you say to them as a lot of our community struggles with this exact thing that Mebit shared? So what would be your message to them, and what type of resource would you guys be able to provide to make that connection more accessible for people?
Right. Well, thank you. So that, like I said at the beginning, so the week of September 4th, starting this next Friday through that whole first week of school, that's all it's built for, is that there should be an expectation that your teacher or teachers will reach out to their students and families to make that connection. We know that when these transitions are happening, particularly in a virtual environment, it's really hard for even our teachers to connect and build relationship. And so we're spending that whole first week about trying to make connections, build the relationships that are necessary, and hope and get the numbers that can be texted, or get the communication tools down so that families and students know how to reach their teachers and their school building. There will be our school office secretaries will be back in buildings, and so phones will get answered. And so those types of services should still be available. But again, that whole first week's built around those types of systems, and we're calling it Strong Start, but it really is just to build community. And for our 9th graders going into high school, our strategic plan really is about African American and Black boys and teens, and so we are hiring mentors that will help our Black male freshmen moving into that transitioning into high school. There should be some connections that are made through that program as well, and that is coming soon. So we know that those transition points are going to be super important in trying to build systems in that will provide some support.
Thank you. I maybe before Hailey interprets this, I was just going to say, thank you for bringing up the mentors for the African American male students. And I think as the theme we've talked about earlier too, as Anita also talked about it, the nuance of the different Black population that lives in the Seattle community. And we hope that, as part of your consideration when you're looking at those mentor or organizers or coordinators for this mentors as you're thinking about, I hope that that you can think of us as part of partners to make sure that our mentors who are representative of the Ethiopian community and the other East African communities too, because I know that that's really critical too. So just want to put that request and also just say that we're open to supporting that as well.
Great. Well, I appreciate that, and we'll be calling on you then. Those, I think, and I'll make sure when we roll out those applications that you are in that loop and maybe can spread it through the community as well.
Happy to, yeah.
To have a good application pool. And I just want people to know that there are, like, I know internet can sometimes be an issue and all of that, but on the front page of our website, there's a Contact Us button. And you can go in there and ask any question, and it will get routed to the appropriate people. So that is also just another tool to use to communicate when you have questions that need to get answered.
Great, thank you.
But I appreciate the time and just appreciate, we'll come back as we continue to gather steam, but just welcome back everybody. And it's going to be a year unlike any other, and we'll, we really want to make sure that we're maintaining as much connection with families all across Seattle as much as possible as we enter into this. It's a partnership that has to be super close, and we understand that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, you're driving off. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Bye.
Okay, all right, bye-bye. Highlight, go ahead.
Okay. ተመልሶ እንትን ልበል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይሄ ችግር እንዳለ እናውቃለን። ግን በዚህ አመት ከመስከረም 4 እስከ መስከረም 11 ያለው ስታርቲንግ ስትሮንግ የሚለው ይሄ ሳምንት ሙሉ አስተማሪዎች ተማሪዎችን ልጆችን ደውለው ኮኔክሽን እንዲፈጥሩ ኮምፒውተር የሚበላሽ ከሆነ የት መሄድ እንደሚችሉ የሆነ ችግር ካለ እንዴት መፍታት እንደሚችሉ ይሄ ሳምንት አብዛኛው ጊዜ ተማሪዎች ወላጆችና አስተማሪዎች የሚገናኙበት ሳምንት ነው። ስታርቲንግ ስትሮንግ 2 ቀን ብቻ ነው ትምህርት የሚማሩት። ሌላ ግን እንደዚህ ኮኔክሽኖች ለሌላ ጊዜ እንደዚህ ሲያጋጥሙ ወደዚህ ደውሉ እንደዚህ አድርጉ የሚሉ ነገሮችን የሚነጋገሩበት የኮኔክሽን ታይም ነው አንድ ሳምንት። ሌላ ደግሞ ሴክሬታሪ የትምህርት ቤቶች ሴክሬታሪ ትምህርት ቤት ይገኛሉ። በስራ ሰዓት ደውላችሁ ከነሱ ጋር መነጋገር ትችላላችሁ። ሌላ ወደ 9ኛ ክፍል የሚገቡ ይሄ የሽግግር ጊዜ ከሚድል ስኩል ከመካከለኛ ደረጃ ትምህርት ቤት ወደ 2ኛ ደረጃ ትምህርት ቤት ሲገቡ የሽግግር ጊዜ ነው። ለዚህ የሚያግዝ የአፍሪካን አሜሪካን ጥቁር ወንዶች የሚያግዙ ሜንተር ወይም ደግሞ አማካሪ አይነት ልንቀጥር ነው። ስለዚህ እነዚህ የሚቀጠሩ አማካሪዎች ለተማሪዎቹም በደንብ ሊያግዙ ይችላሉ። ለመጠር ያሰብን ነው። ሰላምም እነዚህ በጣም ጥሩ ነው። ግን እነዚህ የሚቀጠሩ አፍሪካን ወይም ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያን ኮሚኒቲ ቢወክሉ እንዴት ነው ብላ ነው የጠየቀቻት። እሷ ደግሞ አፕሊኬሽኑ የስራ ቅጽ እናወጣዋለን ከዛ ለሰላም አሳይሻለሁ አንቺም ለምታውቂው ሰው ለሌሎች ሰዎች እንድትነግሪያቸው እናደርጋለን። ስለዚህ ስለነበረን ሰዓት በጣም እናመሰግናለን። ይህንን ሌላ ጊዜ እንቀጥልበታለን። ሶሪ የረሳው ነገር አለ። ኮንታክት አፕ የሚል አለ። እዛ ዌብሳይቱ ከፍታችሁ የሪሶርስ ከሆነ የኮምፒውተር ቴክ ላይን ከፈለጋችሁ ወይም የቋንቋ ከፈለጋችሁ ወይም የምግብ ስርጭት ከፈለጋችሁ ወይም የልዩ ፍላጎት ትምህርት ከፈለጋችሁ ዌብሳይቱ seattleschools.org ብላችሁ ተከፍቱና እዛ ኢንፎርሜሽኖች በሙሉ ማግኘት ትችላላችሁ ብላለች።
እሺ thank you highly እናመሰግናለን። እንግዲህ I believe the superintendent has left, but we still are very excited to continue our conversation with Anita. And so we will do that. There are more questions, so I'll go to that now.
Right.
Okay. እሺ ጥያቄ አለ?
ተናስተልኝ ይሰማል?
ይሰማል።
በጣም እናመሰግናለን ሰላምን ሌሎችም ለምትረዱት እንግዶቹም ስለመጡ ከልብ አመሰግናለሁ። የኔ ጥያቄ ሜቢ ሪሌትድ ላይ ሆንም ላይሆንም ይችላል። ኢንተርናሽናል ተማሪዎችን በተመለከተ ነው። በአሁኑ ሰዓት እነሱ እየተማሩ አይደሉም። አንዳንዶቹ ደግሞ ቪዛቸው ኤክስፓየርድ ያረገም አለ እያረገም ያለ ወይንም ቀኑ የደረሰ አለና በዚህ ላይ መልስ ቢኖራት ከሆነ በማለት ነው። አመሰግናለሁ።
እሺ እና kindergarten እስከ 12ኛ ክፍል ተማሪዎች ናቸው ወይስ ከዛ በላይ?
ከዛ በላይ ያሉ ናቸው በስኮላር የመጡ።
ኦኬ like college ምናምን። ኦኬ ትጠይቅ ግን I think because የነሱ የሚሰሩት የkindergarten እስከ 12 ስለሆነ መልስ ላይኖራቸው ይችላል። ግን ሃይሌ go ahead and interpret that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have a question. My question might not be related with this one, but how is about the international students? Their visa is, some of the students their visa is expired and some of them is getting to expire. So do you have any idea or information about the international students?
I don't have official information. What I do know is that several attorneys general and several universities and colleges have filed a lawsuit. In fact, I believe a stop was put to the administration's drive to cancel all those visas. But we haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything official. That would be something for our legal department, and I can definitely try and reach them and just say this is a question and see what happens. But I don't have an official response. My work is primarily in family partnerships and in just helping schools engage with families better. So I'm sorry that I don't have a definitive answer, but I can certainly follow up for you when we get off this call. I can send a note to legal and just ask them.
Okay. ስለዚህ ምንም መረጃ የለኝም። ኦፊሻሊ የሆነ መረጃ ህጋዊ የሆነ መረጃ የለኝም። እነዚህ ሌጋል ዲፓርትመንትም እስካሁን ያሉት ነገር የለም። ግን ስለዚህ እኔም ከዚህ ጋር የተገናኘ አይደለም ስራዬ። ትምህርት ቤቶች፣ ቤተሰቦች እና ተማሪዎች ማገዝ ነው። ግን አሁን ይሄን ጥያቄ ስለጠየቀኝ ጠይቄ ምን እንደሆነ ልነግርህ እችላለሁ። ፎሎ አፕ ላደርግልህ እችላለሁ። በአሁኑ ጊዜ ግን መልስ የለኝም። ግን ጠይቄ የሚሆነው ነገር ልነግራችሁ እችላለሁ ያለች ነው።
እሺ thank you Anita and thank you Hailey. እሺ ወደሚቀጥለው ጥያቄ እንሄዳለን። እሺ ጥያቄ መጠየቅ ይችላሉ። ስልክ ቁጥር 4700
thank you እሺ መቤት ነኝ። ድኒስ ስለሄደች I don't know if Anita can help us with this. እንዳል የግሬዲንግ ሲስተማቸው ላይ ውሳኔ ተደርጓል ወይ? እንዳለፈው አመት ነው የሚሆነው ወይስ አዲስ የተለየ ዘዴ የተመቻቸ የተዘጋጀ አለ ወይ? እስካሁን ድረስ ከየትም አንግል እንደዚህ አይነት ነገር ስላልሰማን ለመጠየቅ ብዬ ነው። ቴንክ ዩ።
ኦኬ አለሁኝ ልቀጥል?
አለ አዎ
ኦኬ her question is about Seattle Public Schools grading system. Is that the same with the previous year or do you have another for this year? How is your grading system looks like?
So my understanding is, and I know Kirk's on the phone, but you may not have his contact info. my understanding is it's an ABC and incomplete. And if they get an incomplete, the teacher has to, the burden is on the teacher to show why she gave an incomplete, or he. And so far that's what it looks like. But I think it's really important, this is another area for parents to have advocacy in, is to make it clear how we are grading and for what kind of content. So, for instance, everybody on this call is more comfortable with the phone. So can your child join a class without showing their face? You want to find out from your teacher if the rules allow the child not to show their face during class time. Small things like that. If those things affect the grade, it's very important for the family to know. So I would say a very clear question to ask is, what does my child need to do to get an A? And then if you invite us back, we can talk about that information. What did you learn? Because some things should not be evaluated that way. And then what is it that gets them a B? What is it that gets them a C? If you're not home all day because you're working, will they record? And can your child get on the class later in the evening? And then how can the child report that they learned the lesson or they studied the lesson? Those kinds of things are really important. So on your side as a parent, that is the power you have, is to get clarity. And if your teacher cannot be clear with you, then you can request some time to talk with the principal to say, these are the things I need to be clear about. If you don't have an instructional assistant at the school that speaks your language, you can reach out to the central office, or actually the school is required to find you somebody. So let's keep talking about that. But in short, A, B, C, and incomplete.
ሰላም
አቤት አቤት
ይሄ ወይም ይሄ ለተርጉሞ ወይስ ለሃይ ስኩል ነው ለሁሉም ነው እንትን እንበላ ኤቢሲ የሚለው
መጠየቅ እንችላለን አንይተን
ምክንያቱም ለኤሌመንተሪ ስለሚለያይ የኤሌመንተሪ ምናልባት ቤት ፋሚሊው የኤሌመንተሪ የሚፈልግ ይሄ ለሚድል ስኩልና ለሃይ ስኩል ነው
እሺ Anita, well, so Anita, I was just wondering, is the grading that you described, is that for all kindergarten to 12, or is it specific to a certain grade?
That's mostly middle and high. That's kind of where the grade system becomes an issue. For kindergarten, through time, the grading system, I believe, is still the 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is various ranges of not meeting expectations all the way to exceeding expectations. And I can get more. In fact, they're looking for a focus group. If this community would be willing, they're working on improving report cards so they're more useful to families. So could you just ask if anybody is interested in being part of that focus group? I would love to get your name and forward it to our instructional team so you can contribute to what you think would be important or fair.
Go ahead.
Okay, ስለዚህ አሁን ስለ ግሬዲንግ ሲስተም የማርክ አሰጣጥ እንዴት ነው እንደባለፈው ነው ወይስ ለዚህ መከር የተለየ የማርክ አሰጣጥ ህግ አላችሁ የሚለው ጥያቄ ለፎል ወይም ደግሞ ለሚመጣው መከር ኤቢሲ ነው ኤቢሲ ነው የሚሰጠው ወይም ደግሞ ኢንኮምፕሊት ይሄም ለመካከለኛ ደረጃ ትምህርት ቤትና ለሁለተኛ ደረጃ ትምህርት ቤት ነው። ያ ኢንኮምፕሊት አልተሟላም ያገኘ ተማሪ ግን አስተማሪው ለምንድነው አልተሟላም የሰጠው ተብሎ ይጠየቃል። ያው ምክንያት ይጽፋል ማለት ነው። ምክንያት ይጽፋል ለምን ኢንኮምፕሊት እንደሰጠው። ከኪንደርጋርተን እስከ 5ኛ ክፍል ግን ካሁን በፊት አይታችሁት ከሆነ ይሄ ሪፖርት ካርድ የሚባል አለ። 1 2 3 4 ነው የሚሰጠው። 4 ማለት 3 ማለት ያ የሚጠበቀውን ደርሰዋል። 2 ከሆነ ወደሚጠበቀው ተቃርበዋል። 1 ከሆነ ያው ዝቅተኛ ነው። 4 ከሆነ ደግሞ ከሚጠበቀው በላይ አግኝተዋል ተብሎ በስቱደንት ሪፖርት ይጻፋል። ግን አሁን ይሄ ኤ የሚሰጠው ቢ የሚሰጠው ሲ የሚሰጠው ተማሪ እንዴት ምን የሰራ ነው? አሁን ለምሳሌ ወላጆች ቀን ላይ ስራ የሚውሉ ከሆነ እንዴት ነው የሚሆነው? ሪከርድ ይሆናል ወይም ማታ ሊያየው ይችላል ተማሪውስ እንዴት ነው ውጤቱ ሳሚት የሚያስረክበው የሚሉ ጥያቄዎቹ ወላጆች ከርዕሰ መምህር ካስተማሪው ጋር ግልጽ መሆን አለባቸው። አሁን ለምሳሌ ይሄ ቨርቹዋል ፊት ልጁ እንዲያገኝ ፊቱ መታየት አለበት ወይስ ዝም ብሎ በስልክ ፊቱ ባይታይ ቢሳተፍስ ያሰጠዋል? ስለዚህ ኤ የሚያገኘው ምን ይሄ ያረገ ይሄ የሆነ ኤ ያገኛል። ቢ የሚያገኘው ሰው እንዲህ ይሄን ያረገ። ሲ የሚያገኘው ይሄን ኢንኮምፕሊት አልተሟላም የሚያገኝ ይሄን ያረገ ነው የሚል ክሊር የሆነ ነገር ወላጆች መጠየቅ አለባቸው። አስተማሪው መንገር አለባቸው ነው። አሁን ለምሳሌ እንዳልኳችሁ ስራ ላይ የምትውሉ ከሆነ በቀን ላታግዟቸው ትችላላችሁ። እኔ ቀን ላይ ስራ ላይ ስለምውል ቀን ማገዝ ስለማልችል ይሄ ትምህርት ሪከርድ ሆኖ ማታ ልጅ አይቶ ማስረከብ ይችላል ወይ? በዚህ ውስጥ ኤ ቢ የሚለው ነገር እንዴት ነው ብላችሁ ከርዕሰ መምህር ካስተማሪ ጠይቃችሁ ኮንክሪት ጭብጥ የሆነ ነገር መያዝ አለባችሁ። የሚያገኘው ልጅ ይሄን ሲሰራ ነው፣ ቢ የሚያገኘው ይሄን ሲሰራ ነው፣ ሲ የሚያገኘው ይሄን ስራ ነው ብላችሁ ማወቅ አለባችሁ። ይሄን የናንተ በጥንካሬ መጠየቅ ያለባችሁ ነገር ነው እያለች ነው።
እሺ እናመሰግናለን። ሃይላይ አንድ የፎከስ ግሩፑን ነገር ስላት
ያቺ መጨረሻ ያለችው ያቺ ግሬድ ሪፖርት ከፈለጋችሁ ልልክላችሁ ምናምን ያለችው ነው።
ያ ላይክ ፎከስ ግሩፕ ፓርቲሲፔት ማድረግ ከፈለጋችሁ እኛን ለመንገር አይነት ነገር ግን እሱ እኔ ምንድነው ማድረገው ያ go ahead
ያ ማለት ስለ ሪፖርት ካርድ ማለት በሀገራችን ውጤት የሚሰጥበት የእድገት ሪፖርት ማለት ነው። እንደ ሰርቲፊኬት የምንለው ነው። ይሄ 1 2 3 ያለው። ስለዚህ እናንተ የምትፈልጉ ከሆነ ንገሩና ይሄ በግሩፕ ሆናችሁ የምትወያዩበት ነገር ማመቻቸት እንችላለን። ይሄን ለማድረግ እኛ በጣም ደስተኞች ነን። ስለሱ ማወቅ የምትፈልጉ ከሆነ
Okay, thank you Haile, thank you Andita. I see another question, so let's go there. እሺ ጥያቄው መጠየቅ ይችላሉ? ስልክ ቁጥር 2334 ስልክ ቁጥር 2334 ጥያቄ መጠየቅ ይችላሉ?
ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልኝ። እንዴት አላችሁ?
እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን።
የኔ ጥያቄ አሁን ከተነሳው የግሬድ አሰጣጥ ነበረ። ኢትዮጵያ በሰርቲፊኬት በሆነ ወረቀት ነው የሚሰጠው። ከዚህ 2 3 1 ነው። ብዙም አንደርስታንድ አላረኩትም አዲስም ከመሆን አንፃርና በሰርቲፊኬት ነገር ተዘጋጅቶ ቢላክልንና ቢሰጠን የሚለውን ለመጠቆም ያክል ነው። አመሰግናለሁ።
ይቅርታ ጥያቄሽን ቴንክ ዩ ለጥያቄው ግን አንድ ክላሪፊኬሽን ነገር የነበረኝ ንትዩ በወረቀት በሜል ቢመጣልን ነው የምትይው? በፖስታ ቢላክ ማለትሽ ነው ወይስ አልገባኝም?
አዎ ልክ ነሽ፣ በትክክል።
እሱ ችግር የለም እንጠይቃታለን። ግን በፖስታ ይላካል። ሶርስ ላይ ማየት ትችላላችሁ። በፖስታ እኮ ይላካል ለእያንዳንዱ ቤተሰብ። ግን ምንድነው ልዩነቱ? ምንድነው አገራችን እንግሊዝኛ 70 80 ሂሳብ 60 50 እየተባለ ነው የሚጻፈው አይደል? እዚህ ጋር ግን ለምሳሌ እንግሊሽ የሚለውን ዋን የሚያገኘው ይሄን ያረገ ነው እዛ። ስለዚህ ዋን ምክንያቱም እንደዚህ አድርገዋል ተብሎ ይጻፋል። ሁለት እንደዚህ ይሄን ስላረገ ቱ። ሶስት የሚያገኘው እንደዚህ ነው ተብሎ ያ ወረቀት ሶርስ ላይም በፒዲኤፍ ተቀምጧል። ሶርስ ላይ ኋላ ገልጽላችኋለሁ ጊዜ ካለን እዛ ማየት ይችላሉ። ለእያንዳንዱ ቤተሰብ ግን በሜል ወደ ቤቱ ይላካል። ስለ ይሄ ግሬድ ሪፖርት ምናልባት እንዴት ነው አንድ ሁለት የሚለው የሚፈልግ ቤተሰብ ካለ ግን ያው ለአኒት አሁን ያለችው እንንገራትና አንድ ጊዜ ስለ ግሬድ ሪፖርት እንዴት እንደሆነ መግለጫ ሊሰጡንም ያው እሷ እንዳለችው ፍቃደኞች ናቸው።
ኦኬ።
ስለዚህ ልጠይቃት አይደል?
ንገራት ያለችውን። go ahead።
ስለዚህ ጥያቄ ማለት ወደ ቤታችን መላክ ትችላላችሁ ወይ? ወደ ቤት ላኩልን ነው አይደል?
እንደሱ ነው ፕሪፈር ማድረገው ነው ያለችው። እንደዛ ነው ኢትዮጵያ እንደዛ ስለነበረ ሰርቲፊኬት ቢሆን ደስ ይለኛል ነው ያለችው።
Okay. How can you deliver the report card to families? It is better to send the report card in hard copy to each family. So how do you deliver that?
So the only thing I can do is take that back to our teaching and learning department and tell them that our families, our Amharic and Tigrinya-speaking families, want to receive their report cards as a hard copy. We can definitely follow up with Salam depending on what I hear, but we would need to find a way to make sure that at least the people on this call who make that request receive it hard copy.
ስለዚህ እኔ ማድረግ የምችለው የመማርና የማስተማር ዲፓርትመንት ይሄ ሪፖርት ካርድ በሃርድ ኮፒ በወረቀት ወደ ቤታቸው እንዲላክ ይፈልጋሉና ይሄን ነገር እንድታደርጉ ብዬ ነግራቸዋለሁ። ስለዚህ ቤተሰቦች ይሄንን ሪፖርት ካርድ በሃርድ ኮፒ ወይም በወረቀት እንዲደርሳቸው እነግራቸዋለሁ ለቲቺንግ ለርኒንግ ዲፓርትመንት።
Thank you Haile for those. Thank you Anita for the answer. ጥያቄውም ቆንጆ ነበር እናመሰግናለን። I think those were all the questions people had. I have kind of a question and also maybe a request also based on what we've heard in our program in the last, I think this is our 22nd consecutive Sunday that we've done this program. And education does end up coming up a lot, just because if you can imagine, that's such an important part of a lot of people's life. And one thing that I noticed is that I've seen a lot of sort of Facebook Live events that the Seattle Public Schools is doing, which, is really great. And I've participated in a couple where I just kind of listened in. I don't have like a school age child. My kid is she's under 2 years old, so but I was listening to it because I wanted to kind of see what people were talking about, what the school district is sharing with people, what families were experiencing, and then so that I could bring any information that the district is providing directly to this group and this community in Amharic. So that's something I've been doing in the last about 22 weeks. Like I said, one thing that, and I think that the Facebook Lives are great. I think that when it comes to this particular population, the difficulty is that one, like folks might not really they might not even know that Seattle Public School has a Facebook group, that they could like it, and that a live event would happen and they could be part of it. And then there's also the language challenge. I saw that you guys have a sign interpreter, which is really great. And it's really hard to do, all these languages in a live event. It's just very difficult. And so I totally get that. And I think my request is, I guess what I'm saying is, it would be really great, based on our experience, what we've seen is that it really helps if there's some phone component to this, where people are able to participate just using their phone, like we just did right now. And people are much more likely in our community to be asking questions when that is the way that participating. So whether you guys do it through Zoom or allow people to ask questions via that, that could really, really increase the participation. And then one is the phone option, having that. The other is having Amharic interpretation. Those two pieces would be really great. The third thing I would say, too, is the way I saw the Facebook Live events, they would just sort of pop up once in a while, and I didn't know when they were going to happen much ahead of time. And so, it would be great to have, let's say it's every month or something, right? Like there's a point in which people can expect to hear from the district. That would really help people organize their thoughts and questions and kind of look forward to a time where they will engage directly with administration so that they could have that point. I think the biggest thing that we've learned with this program is the fact that it's consistent and people know that it's going to happen on Sundays, it's going to happen at 1. That consistency really helps people participate. That doesn't mean they come every Sunday. Sometimes they come one Sunday and they don't come the next. But so those three things, how can the Seattle Public School help our community engage more by, 1, involving phone conversation, 2, having interpretation, and 3, having more consistent and predictable times where those check-ins are happening. So that's both a request and a question to you. And if Kirk, if you also want to introduce yourself, you want to say anything, you could just press 9441 hashtag, and that'll let me know that you are a co-host, and I will unmute you. Okay, that was my question.
Okay, so let me just respond to the phone component. I know a lot of organizations are struggling with Zoom, but it's still at this point one of the best ways to engage. And I wonder, because Zoom has the capacity for several breakout rooms, and I wonder if that could be a better place, even if the initial live thing was run, and then just have our interpreters in breakout rooms of different languages, and then come back together as a group. So, so that could be one thing. I think it's something to bring to our communications folks. I won't have an immediate solution, but I think it's a solution we can co-create or co-design with the community. The other piece is, and Zoom will allow you to call in, right? So it can be a call, but you can also call in. The other aspect of it is just the regularity of meetings. I thought it was like on Tuesdays at 4:30 to 5 or something like that. But I have to go back and double check with them. I hear you. There has to be an issue around, as Kirk says, accessibility and predictability. So, so people get information on the regular, and then what we have to convey is what's the subject matter at each of those gatherings. So Facebook Live, phone, and then obviously the Amharic component. Can I just take the liberty to say how grateful I am for this conversation? Even for me who came here speaking English, I changed careers because I was terrified about what my children would experience in school. And I so appreciate the community coming in and partnering and lending voice to conversations that are really frightening for a lot of families because school at home was very transparent. And school at home loved having the children entering the school system. And school here does something that is very different in that some children have immediate access and they can interpret it appropriately, or it works for them because their culture is aligned completely. But for many others, it excludes the children and it excludes the parents. And so when the children and the parents are on different pages, it makes it very difficult. So as I'm just remembering my journey, and every day I am grateful to my Creator that my daughter is in university. Now the real question is, how do we keep her supported so she finishes and can build a life? We don't take that for granted. So I just think that these things you're offering are a way to do that, to take the anxiety and the burden off of families, to say you're not the one who's off here. There's a lot of spaces are opaque and information is not so easy to get. So Salam, you have my contact information. I'm not going to put out my number, obviously, but my email can certainly go out. And if there's anybody who needs specifics, they can contact you. And if I need to call them, I will do that. Because this is not easy. And these are our children. Many of us came here to make a better life for them. So I just want us to know that no family should be left to struggle alone to educate their children when that's the whole purpose of coming here. But I hope I did answer your question, your previous question.
You did. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Kirk, are you on there? Do you want to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, good deal. Okay. So I want to just offer one that I think Anita's offered, what is information that is really consistent with my understanding of our start of school related information and status. So you've got some really good, solid information already. I sit on a lot of the work groups as far as where we're going as a district in terms of the supports we're offering our families, and specifically our Black and brown families and our families of African American and Black boys. I would offer also that I hear you very clearly when you talk about accessibility and predictability, and we've got a couple different approaches to that. One through an initiative around affinity groups with the Office of Superintendent. And then also, I sit as director for the Department of Stakeholder Engagement, which is where Anita's work and team is embedded under family engagement, a deeply critical component of our strategic work at the district. And I'd offer that I'm always open and available for the conversation about how we make these things more accessible, and then also thinking about how we shorten the throw between thinking about what it takes to make something more accessible and simply doing it. So I don't want you to believe or begin to experience this as a district that says we hear you, and then it takes 6 months for us to see a shift. I think we can, especially in the pandemic, which offers us an opportunity to do things radically different in a very short period of time, we can shift a lot more quickly. I'll end with this. As the director of stakeholder engagement and the place where family engagement rolls out under, I welcome accountability. My email is kpmead@seattleschools.org. That's K, P as in Paul, M as in Mary, E as in Elephant, A as in Apple, D as in David, @seattleschools.org. Feel free to reach out to me. I try to turn emails as quickly as possible for those of you on the call. But again, I'm open to accountability, I'm open to transparency, and I'm open to really making certain that we find really effective ways to hear community and turn community voice into better practice and policy at the district level. So I just want to end there and offer that for you as well. So thank you for entertaining this conversation with us and giving us some time on the weekend to just hear you and really internalize some of the needs that you have.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Kirk. All right. Haile, we apologize. That was many different things at once, but do your best and that's fine.
but እነዛ የጠየቅሻቸው በጣም ወሳኞች ስለሆኑ እነሱን በደንብ ይያቸዋለሁ። ከዛ በኋላ ግን ተፈጫለሁ።
ምንም ችግር የለም።
አዎ ስለዚህ የተጠየቁ ጥያቄዎች ሰላም የጠየቀችው ይሄ የፌስቡክ ቀጥታ ስርጭት ሱፐርኢንተንደንቷ ዲስከሽን ታደርጋለችና ይሄ ማድረጋችሁ ጥሩ ነው። ግን የስልክ ኦፕሽን ቤተሰቦች በስልክ ደውለው የሚሳተፉበት ሚንስ ወይም ደግሞ ሌላም ተጨማሪ አማርኛ አስተርጓሚ ሌላ ደግሞ ያ ስብሰባው የሚገመት ማለት ጊዜው የታወቀ ለምሳሌ ሮብ ሐሙስ የሚገበት እንዲሆን ምን የሚለው ጥያቄ ነው ያቀረበችው። እሷ ስትመልስ ስለ የስልክ ዙም ጥሩ ነው። ዙም ማለት በአንድ ጊዜ ብዙ ሰዎች ያሳትፋል። ለምሳሌ አንድ ላይ ተሰብስበህ ለምሳሌ በቋንቋ አማርኛ ተናጋሪ፣ ትግርኛ፣ ኦሮሞ፣ ሶማሊ ተብሎ የየራሳቸው ክፍል ሊኖራቸው ስለሚችል ዙም መጠቀም ጥሩ ነው። ግን አሁን ኢሚዲየት ሆነ መልስ የለንም እያለች ነው። ስለ የፈተና የስብሰባው ተከታታይነት ደግሞ ማክሰኞ 4:30 ከሰዓት 4:30 ፒኤም ላይ ነው። ግን ይሄም ነገ አረጋግጣለሁ ነው ያለችው። ሌላ ደግሞ ይሄ መጨረሻ የተናገረው ያው ስልኩም ኢሜይልም ሰጥቷል። በማንኛውም ጊዜ መጠየቅ ትችላላችሁ ነው። በጣም አሳጥሬዋለሁ። ሰላም በቃ ጨርሻለሁ።
ምንም ችግር የለም። ጥሩ ነው። እንትን ያ ልክ ኃይሌ እንዳለው አሁን ጨረሻ የተናገረው ሰውዬ ስሙ ሚድ ከርክ ይባላል። ከአኒታ ጋር አብሮ የሚሰራ ሰው ነው እና እሱ ያለው እንግዲህ በጣም ከኛ ኮሚኒቲ ጋር መስራት እንደሚፈልግ በተለይ ሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል እንዳለ አብሮ መስራት እንደሚፈልግና ኢሜይሉን ሰጥቷል እንደሰማችሁ kpmead@seattleschools.org. I believe that's the last part of that email. እንደሱ ነው ያለው እና መነጋገር ፈልጋለሁ። በተለይኛ አሁን ሀበሻ ኮሚኒቲ ጥቁር ወይም አፍሪካን አሜሪካን የምንባለው እዚህ ሀገር ውስጥ እና ለነሱ አይነት በጣም ትልቅ ፕሮግራም እሱም ሌላዎቹም ሰዎች እዛ ዲስትሪክት እየሰሩ ስለሆነ በዛው እኛም ኢንክሉድ እንድንደረግ እንደሚፈልግ ብሏል። እንግዲህ እንደምታዩት ብዙ ጊዜ እነሱ የሚሉት እንግዲህ እንድንመጣና እንድንጠይቃቸው ነው። ስለዚህ ዛሬ ሁላችሁም መታችሁ ለጠየቃችሁት ጥያቄ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። ቢካዝ እናንተ ስትጠይቁ ነው ጥሩ የሚሆነው። እኔ ዝም ብዬ ሁሌ ለብቻዬ በጠይቃቸው ስለኔ ይመስላቸዋል ሰላም የፈለገችው ነገር ነው ይላሉ አይደል? ግን ሁላችንም አንድ ላይ ሆነን ስንጠይቃቸው ኢትዮጵያ ኮሚኒቲዎች እንዲፈልጋሉ እንዲህ አይነት ነገር ያስፈልጋቸዋል መመለስ አለብን ለነሱ መስራት አለብን ይላሉ። ስለዚህ እሱ በጣም ኢምፖርታንት ነገር ነውና እኔ ደግሞ ሌላ ያየሁት ጊዜያችን እያለቀ ስለሆነ ኃይሌ ሌላ ጊዜ ከተመቸ ኃይለው አንተም ራሱ በጣም ቢዚ ነህ እና ግን ጊዜ ካለህ ሜቢ ተመልሰህ ብታናግረን ወይም አንተም የምታውቃቸው ብዙ ነገርም ከኢትዮጵያ ኮሚኒቲ ጋር ብዙ ስለሰራ እንዴት ሲያትል ፐብሊክ ስኩል ብዙ ስለሰራ እሱን አንድ ላይ አድርገህ ብታናግረን ሌላ ቀን በጣም ደስ ይለናል። ዛሬ ይቅርታ በደንብ ያልሰጠንህም
ችግር የለም። አንቺው ኢሜይል አድርግልኝ። ያው እኔ ኤክስፖዠሩ ስላለኝ ሪሶርስ እንዴት ማግኘት እንደሚችሉ በደንብ አድርጌ ልነግራቸው እችላለሁ። በቃ ኢሜይል አድርግልኝ በማንኛውም ሰዓት ችግር የለም።
እሺ ቴንክ ዩ ሃይሌ።
ምክንያቱም ብዙ አሁን የሚጠይቁት ነገር እንዴት ማግኘት እንደሚችሉ በደንብ አድርጌ ኢንፎርሜሽን አለኝ። ኤክስፖዠሩ ስላለኝ ልነግራቸው እችላለሁ።
እሺ አመሰግናለሁ ሃይሌ። Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Mead, or Kirk, sorry, and thank you to the superintendent as well. I was just saying that, you know, we appreciate you guys all coming, for talking with us, and we hope this is, you know, a start of our conversation as we go through this new academic year. You know, it's weird. It's kind of a difficult time for everybody, so We appreciate you taking the time on a weekend, on a Sunday, away from your family to be here. And we are excited and want to continue to connect with you and see how we can support each other to make sure that our families or families of Ethiopian communities are getting the resources that they need so that they could be successful. So we appreciate your time, and I also said to Haile that, you know, he has experience as well working specifically with Ethiopian families in the school district, and that's a really great skill set, and we would love for him and for you guys to come back and educate our community some more about how to best work with you, and also for our community to share more with you about, you know, what's working and what could be improved. So that's all I wanted to say. Anita, I want to give you one more last chance to, you know, just if there's anything else you'd like to say before the program ends.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I just want to share that in my journey, I was very confident in how to be a mom, and then I was less confident when my child started school. And then I started to learn about the district and learn how to advocate for my particular child and how to keep my child's culture the center and the focus, because I understood if you don't know yourself, you get swayed by anything. I hope that in the work we continue to do together, that others may have the opportunity to be able to be advocates for their children, and that in this community, one day we will meet about other things, not about things about getting access and people loving our children the way we love them and people respecting our language. I want us one day to talk about the successes we are having, the jobs we are getting because we are growing professionally, or even the businesses we are starting and celebrating our children. So I just want to say thank you very much. All my education was acquired step by step. So I know that anybody who wants to work their way through the system can do it too, because nothing is different or special about me. I was blessed to have some opportunities, but I hope that I can be here to offer those also. And Salam, I'd like to just mention that we have the Family Connectors University for anyone who hasn't, who wants to go to college but is not sure how to start. Those are 2 credits that families can get from the Family Connectors University. This fall, it's going to be virtual. So I believe from 6 to 8 or possibly 5:30 to 7:30. And it's just an opportunity to learn about the school district. It's 10 weeks, 2 hours a week. I can send you all that information, but I just want to put that out there, that that's another way to build your capacity as a parent in a class with other parents. So if you're interested, we can send you that information. I'll email you, Salam, the person that coordinates the program, and you can be in touch and send it out to your community. And by the way, we pay for the credit, so families don't have to worry about the tuition, but we can talk in detail about it.
Okay, awesome. Haile, do you want to?
Okay. እሷ ማጠቃለያ ሰጥታለች። በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። እኔ እናት እንደመሆኔ በጣም እኮራለሁ። ልጄ ላይ ማገዝ ላይ ካልቸር ላይ ማስተማር ግን ትንሽ ብዙም አልኮራበትም። ስለዚህ እኛ ለልጆቻችን አድቮኬት ተጣባቂ መሆን አለብን። ስለዚህ አንድ ጊዜ ከናንተ ጋር እንገናኛለን። እንደዚሁ ሪሶርስ ለመፈለግ ሳይሆን ልጆቻችን ጥሩ ደርሰው ያን ለማክበር እንገናኝ ይሆናል እያለች ነው። ሌላ ደግሞ እናንተ ማንንም ሰው ወደዚህ ሲስተም ለመግባት ከፈለገ ኦፖርቹኒቲ እድል አለ፣ መግባት ትችላላችሁ። ዩኒቨርሲቲ ኦፍ ዋሽንግተን በዚህ የሚመጣው መከር ወቅት 2 ክሬዲት የሚያስገኝ ለቤተሰቦች ትምህርት በቨርቹዋል በኦንላይን ወይም ደግሞ በኦንላይን ይሰጣል ከ6 እስከ 8 ወይም ከ5 ተኩል እስከ 7 ተኩል 2 ሰዓት በሳምንት ነው ስለዚህ የምትፈልጉ ንገሩኝና እዚህ መሳተፍ ትችላላችሁ ስለ ክፍያ ትቸገሩ በነፃ ነው እሱም እንነጋገርበታለን
እሺ thank you highly appreciate it all right okay thank you everyone appreciate it እናመሰግናለን በጣም እና እንግዲህ የሚቀጥለው ሳምንት ደግሞ እንገናኛለን አንድ ሰዓት Anita and me, I'm happy to follow up, and I think there's like different pieces of things that need connection or closing of the loop. So I'm happy to the next couple of weeks to just kind of, figure out a time or something to talk through some of the things we heard and what are the things that we could do to move forward on the recommendation and questions that were posed by community members today. አመሰግናለሁ thank you so much everybody and we'll see you guys sorry I'm like mixing up my language let me just go to አማርኛ እሺ እናመሰግናለን በጣም እና እስከሚቀጥለው ሳምንት እስከምንገናኝ ሰላም ሁኑ ኃይሌ በጣም እናመሰግናለን Anita and Superintendent በጣም እናመሰግናለን እሺ ደህና ዋሉ we'll see you guys all next week እሺ ciao thank you
እሺ መልካም
ቀን ciao